Welcome to Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight. My name is Pete Wright, and I'm joined once again by BA Insight's Chief Customer Officer, Sean Coleman. Welcome back, Sean.
Happy to be here.
This is part 3 of our conversation on a large pharmaceutical organization you have worked with to craft a next-gen search application. And in the first 2 parts of our conversation, you walked us through their decision-making process, one that led them ultimately to invest more intentionally in SharePoint versus a new provider. And you shared some background on their implementation. Now, in the beginning, you said that they selected SharePoint over ElasticSearch, but it sounds like that may not have been the whole story, that there is, after all, a role for ElasticSearch in this example as they go about building this next-gen search platform. So how did Elasticsearch come back around?
Absolutely. So completely right. They were looking at Elasticsearch and SharePoint up front together. And what we've started to see, and we see it a lot in the pharmaceutical industry, is that Elasticsearch is making its way into organizations in a lot of different places. You see them, doing things. You hear about Logstash and log analysis, right? So they're using Elasticsearch for all of this big data. The IT group may be using it for all of this big data. And what we ran into here is you realize that there are other departments inside of these organizations that are already doing things, call it grassroots, call it whatever you want to do, with Elasticsearch. And that's ultimately what we ran into here is recognizing that from a general purpose search engine, it was looked at, but then you find out later, well, this other group actually is also using it for, clinical research databases or things like that. So while we looked at Elasticsearch early on and SharePoint Search fit their needs, Elasticsearch came back up in actually a couple different ways that way, recognizing that, hey, there's actually some people in other areas of the company that are using this and not doing the same thing we're doing, but doing something that kind of sits and would be really great if they talk together. And so that's ultimately how it came up and how we started talking to them again about, okay, Elasticsearch may be a longer-term part of this infrastructure, and how do we attack that, and what do we do with it?
Let's walk through a few examples. How does this combination of SharePoint and Elastic ultimately benefit them with some more specifics?
Yeah, so I think the core benefit that this company will ultimately see is when you've got Elasticsearch that's got data in it that's being populated from another department. Let's say the other department has a custom built application they're doing to solve a specific need. What an integration can do, and what the two search engines, because in that way they have different data in them, but you can bring the search results together. So the first example that we talk about is when we actually do what we call search federation. So we take it so that it's like, hey, there's this other clinical database out there that we have internally that this group is using, and it's got some good information specifically if someone's searching for X, Y, and Z. So what we can do is we can take a user's query when they come to the site, and we can feed it to the local SharePoint search database, or we can actually pass it off to that Elastic index that exists out there and take those results and present them to the user in a couple different ways. We could say, oh, by the way, we also searched, the clinical trials, department database, and we found this that you may find interesting. Or we could completely separate it from the end user and intertwine those results right on the front end for them, so they don't actually recognize that what you've done is done a local database search and a remote database search, the Elastic one, and brought them together. So you can either present it to the users as oh, by the way, we searched somewhere else, or just leave it transparent to them and bring the results together. So that's kind of the first concrete example of what we've done. The second, and this one's a little bit more interesting, is realizing that there is a potential that kind of sharing the data that exists between them makes sense. And that what we find is that people that have built an Elasticsearch backend built it to purpose to whatever data it's going to consume, and it's often expensive to have it go and consume other bits of data. So it would, they built it to talk to, let's say, a document and backend, or they built it and they're talking to file shares, or somehow they're getting their data in there through Logstash or something like that. But then someone decides that, hey, we've got all this content in Viva Vault, and that department would like to have it in their Elastic index. We can actually greatly lower the time and effort for that with the connector that we've built in SharePoint, because our connector can speak to a SharePoint backend or it can speak to Elastic backend. So when you look at data that you want to make available in Elastic, you've decided most companies are going to have a core search engine and then some other general purpose search engines, that Elastic fitting the purpose of that department. If you want to enrich them with other data, you've got a platform. This company already has a platform now that we've helped them build that can take that, pretty easily, get it over there and do a lot of the security trimming, the things that we do on it to make that easy. So that's kind of the two core ways that we've seen it come back up for this organization.
That sounds like a really smart solution, because I can imagine when you approach one of the departments that happens to have invested heavily in a fully custom Elasticsearch, and you tell them what your plan is, that the response goes something like, wait, you want to do what?
Yep.
So, there are two kind of implicit conditions there. One is that, there's a technical challenge, and two, there's a cultural challenge. What are some of the unique challenges that they faced by going down this road?
I think the cultural challenge one is the most interesting, because when they first started talking about it, if you go way back to the beginning, when they were evaluating Elasticsearch and SharePoint, we kind of knew a little bit about what this other group was doing with Elasticsearch, and as soon as you start having conversations about what they're doing, you realize that they're very, everyone's very proud of what they're doing, and they should be. It's great, and there's a bit of a, I don't want to call it a Mac PC kind of battle, but it's a little, right? Well, we have Elasticsearch. Why would we look at anything else? And somebody's going, well, we've got SharePoint Search, and it does everything we want, and a lot of times it's not counterproductive, but it's good to find out what people feel are their environments giving them they don't feel in other places. And when you're able to then go and say, well, in no way is this effort trying to say that you need to change yours, and in no way is yours going to then change ours. But what we're going to do is make get kind of the best of both worlds environment. Then they kind of start, they switch and they go, wow, okay. Now it's more of how do we make these tools work together, and how can I benefit from the data you have, and how can you benefit from the data I have, and we kind of both get to take our technology platform and use it the way we want. And that was very kind of interesting and fun conversations we had with them to kind of get to that point.
Well, that's everybody who sort of works in this business has the Babelfish dream, and it sounds like this is your hitchhiker's result, right? That you've actually created something that they don't need to worry so much about changing their behavior. They're translated to the rest of the organization fluidly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example. Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly, I think, what they feel like they gain the most is really that flexibility and the ability to deliver to the end user needs, right? And what they also know from a future-proof standpoint, right? So you don't know, you can't predict 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line. The Elasticsearch Index could innovate an amazing new feature, the same way as SharePoint could, right? SharePoint Search could innovate these features that you're like, wow, I can't live without that. I need that. Well, now you've got the flexibility to either side, make a seamless migration to the other technology, right? Since we have the ability to talk to data in both indexes and put data in both indexes, you don't have to worry about, did I make the right decision for the next 5 to 10 years on the search index I chose? It's not really about that. It's the right decision for now, and you've got the flexibility to move later if something comes out. If there's a game changer that someone brings to the table, you can just go, okay, I'm just going to shift over to that one, and we'll start using that because that's of great enough value to me to do that. And so I think that they got a lot of peace of mind in their decision when they realized that I don't have to look at this as did I make the right technology decision for the next decade? It's more of I'm making the right technology decision for now, and I've got flexibility when, if that were to change in the next couple of years.
So where are they in the overall implementation process? Has it been long enough that you actually have some results from the people who are using this system and get a sense for how well they're taking to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, here we are in almost in December. We are in kind of a full user testing mode with them right now. So we've had business representation throughout. So the business users have put their hands on it, play with it. Certain groups, lots of demos to that. I mean, every time we've shown it, we've gotten, kind of tremendous feedback from the users. We're actually getting ready to go to a larger user population here around the middle of December. So we've gotten really great feedback so far. that next group of users comes on the next couple of weeks, and we're expecting kind of good stuff. And then, full on global launch in Q1 of next year is where they're at. But so far, and not only with this group, we've worked with other groups in pharmaceuticals that do Elasticsearch and SharePoint, and have gotten really great feedback from users on that side who are live and in production. And so the journey's almost over, but so already we're seeing kind of it's funny. The more you show it to people, the more the current users hear that there's something coming, and the more that they reach out and you start hearing information about that. They've one of the anecdotes that they've shared with us is that they've got a support group that supports their existing search infrastructure, and they used to get questions of, why can't I find this? And without very much communication, they're now getting questions on, will the new system do this better? Right. So we've not told you much about the new system, but other people have, and there's word of mouth out there. So we think that people are excited about it. They're kind of clamoring to get their hands on it.
Well, so it seems almost inappropriate to ask this question, given how close you are to a full launch. But what comes next on the horizon? Like after you get this version launched, what are the next sort of opportunities that are sitting out there on the horizon that you'd love to see an implementation like this allow people to take advantage of?
Yeah, I think that what we're really starting to see is the next range, and what we're talking with this customer about is more of a natural language processing, more intelligence into personalized relevancy. So things where everyone's used to keyword search, but getting to more where it's English structured search, and being able to ask the search engine full text questions, things like that, and then also being able to crank up what we call the semantic layer processing, which is when you're analyzing a document and identifying things, correlations in that, being able to go into almost the structure of the sentence and the structure of the words that are being said in relation to others, right? So in pharmaceuticals is a great example of things like, this drug and this drug, right? I mentioned them together, right? But did I mention them together in a, this drug creates an adverse event with this other one, or these in combination help? Is this a positive relationship? Is this a negative relationship? And being able to pull those kind of correlations out, which is more that kind of in-depth, processing of the language in the document. That's, I think, the next level, and I think the exciting stuff that we'll be both doing with them and with other customers, rest of this year and next year.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a great story, and we sure appreciate you coming and sharing it over the last 3 episodes here. Where should people go to learn more about BA Insight's role in search in the life sciences industry?
So our website has a ton of information. We've got a life sciences kind of dedicated page, which I think will have the links to this and lots of information in there. We're constantly doing new blogs and new webinars. So just peruse that page, sign up for our updates, and lots of good stuff out there to learn.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Sean Coleman, BA Insight's Chief Customer Officer. Thank you so much for your time today. On behalf of Sean, I'm Pete Wright. Thank you all for downloading the show, and we'll catch you next time right here on Shared Insights, the podcast from BA Insight.